Hi everyone, I'm going to be discussing today Disney's animated feature Treasure Planet. This is seen as Disney's biggest box office bomb, but does it deserve to have more recognition than that? As the movie that started the downfall of CGI, hand-drawn, I'm sorry. Let's find out. The looks of this movie is really fascinating. CGI backgrounds make up planets, stars, and the ship and some plants on various planets, and it really adds a nice level of detail and depth to the animation. It makes the view of space really special and fascinating to look at. Ron Musk and Gert and John Clements wanted to make this film for a long time, but I feel like it is good that they had to wait a while and make other films along the way because, one, we got great movies like Little Mermaid and Aladdin out of the mix, and two, it allowed technology to come forward more and create a really special looking film that wouldn't have been possible in the early 90s. Even the beginning of this film shows different art styles with the typical Disney kid reading a book of story that that's going to be their story later. But now this ship pops out of the book. It's 3D. We have a narrator. It's really fascinating to watch and goes against some Disney tropes very well, which really works for the animation in its whole. It's one of Disney's most visually unique animated films, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about this movie. The story is, as you probably figured out, an adaptation of Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's an interesting choice to set it in space, but as Disney had made a live-action Treasure Island movie already, as well as Muppet Treasure Island, there was no need to make a straightforward animated version of it, in my opinion. Some people might find it off-putting, and I can totally understand that, but either way, I think it's a really interesting and creative premise. I like how the story touches on themes that are deeper than other Disney animated films. We have Jim's dad, who, unlike other Disney parents, didn't die. He chose to walk out on his wife and son. Parental abandonment is a very serious issue that lots of kids deal with, and this movie deals with it fairly well. We see that Jim is shaken up by it, and it's mirrored well within the film's sole musical number, I'm Still Here, and very good mirrored scenes between Jim's father and Silver. Other themes are not knowing how to live up to expectations, wanting to find your path in greatness, and really adult and mature themes that are handled very well for a Disney movie. The characters are also great. Jim isn't an annoying, one-dimensional rebel. We want to see him succeed, and he is inspired by the various characters from Captain America to, of course, Silver. We see why he is the way he is, so he doesn't come across as a brat on any occasion. Silver is by far the most complex Disney villain. He is redeemed at the end, and he does care deeply for Jim, but he also has a sense of greed. But at the same time, he really wants to make a dream come true, and a motivation that's more poignant and relatable than other Disney villains' ridiculous revenge plots or Cruella's over-the-top plan for Dalmatian puppy coat. So he is a very enjoyable character, and by far one of the most complex antagonists in Disney history. Dr. Doppler and Captain Amelia are two great characters. I really enjoy Dr. Doppler's whole nerdy aspect to astronomy and knowledge of all the star systems. And it is funny hearing him say one word that he's thinking, but then changing it to something less offensive, such as when he asks Sarah, Jim's mother, how she could raise a fellow like Jim. Captain Amelia is probably the funniest character in the movie. She has this posh exterior, but she also has such great British slang out of it, like zip your howling screamer. And she is just so bluntly honest that it's hard not to enjoy every scene that she's in. So yeah, very funny character. Ben is one that I'm a little torn on. He isn't terrible, and he has one or two good lines, but his comedy is a lot more forced than that of Captain Amelia or Doppler or the Pirates, and it's mainly that he's crazy or that he never shuts up, which would be okay if, like Donkey from Shrek, he had some lines that were funny on their own instead of just like talking and touching. That's a no-no. And the other problem with the character is that he tends to clash with scenes such as the one where Jim is being chased by one of the other villains of the film's group, and cutting back and forth on as he tries to cut wires and short circuits on the ship, which is really clashing. And I mean, if he wasn't seen at all, or if we didn't hear from him, it might have worked for the drama, but the comedy really feels out of place in that particular scene. He isn't awful, but I feel that there's better comedy in the film elsewhere. Now, why do I believe this movie is so underrated? It's hard to say. It's very similar to another Disney film that's underrated, Atlantis Lost Empire, with a more mature storyline with characters that are more complex and three-dimensional, making selfish choices at times, but still being decent people deep down. It could be the action that some parents might have thought would be too over the top of their kids. The up-and-coming Pixar, because really, of the hand-drawn animated films of the 2000s, the only one that was a real financial success, I believe, was Lilo and Stitch. The Emperor's New Groove wasn't really popular until it came to video. And unlike the others, those two, the other films from this decade really didn't get the same attention, and Treasure Planet probably has one of the lowest receptions of all. It's not hated as much as some of the worst, but it's not really praised among the best, and only really die-hard Disney fans talk about the movie, which is a shame because I think it's a visually stunning movie with some great action sequences that also look terrific, especially that black hole scene. Some great characters and a mature storyline, which definitely make it worth checking out. Okay, so the question of the day is, what animated films do you think are some of the most overlooked and underrated of all time? And as always, say it with me, if you have an animation film you want me to review, please leave it in the comments as a suggestion. Until then, thanks again for watching. See you later. Tomorrow, we'll be having a Mother's Day special with one of my favorite animated directors of all time, and probably the best non-Disney animated film of all time, with a great mother character. Until then, see you later.